It's interesting. I look back 10 years ago, Regan, I got really sick and I had to totally drop my whole lifestyle. I lost all my money and I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was sick for a long time. And then I've come back so strong. And I wish I knew you guys back then. I wish that I knew me now back then. Right? Take me in like a time machine, right? It's like
the older we get, there's more of a headwind. So that's where you have, if you want to live with unreasonable health for a long time, you've got to do all the things, just like you're saying. It's not just the mitochondria, it's not just the gut biome, it's not just your hormones, it's not just your peptide pathways. It's all these things being integrated. And that, I think, the autonomic nervous system is at the core of that.
When you wake those sensory nerves up, it's going to light up whatever representation there is in your brain and your nervous system to that particular area, right? So it's all about fuel and activation. So if you're activating things are basically saying, yes, I want more nutrients. I want to regenerate. I want to stay, the unused gate gets the rust, right? That's the Chinese proverb.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Unreasonable Health Podcast. This is your host of the day, Cade Archibald, and I am stoked to be with everybody today. We got some really cool stuff we're going to go over. We got an amazing guest that we're bringing on as we speak, and really great show. So yesterday in the Health Accelerator challenges, we talked about some really cool peptide pathways as well as age reversal pathways. And so the challenge yesterday, hey, John, good to have you on. The challenge yesterday, we were talking about what different, looking at how your health is and protecting certain criteria in your health, like protecting your sleep, protecting your nutrition, protecting your body, as opposed to making it maybe something that's a lot more of an effort or like a drag to do. Think of it a little bit differently, more as a protectant. So find those little things. So protect your sleep. So if you're not a part of those Health Accelerator challenges, dive in. If you're listening to the podcast on the recording, you can go to acueastwest.com/hack. And you can learn all about it there. But awesome. And so before we jump into our guest today, we're going to cover the peptide of the week. Regan, what is our peptide of the week?
Actually, today we're going to talk about exosomes, which I guess don't know that they really fall into the category of peptides. But exosomes, if you think of these as small extracellular vesicles that are secreted by cells in your body. And so the exosomes that can be used therapeutically are typically harvested from mesenchymal stem cells from umbilical cord tissue. So typically coming from the perivascular region. But what they do is there's four things. They transfer molecules, so they can transfer proteins, lipids, and nucleic acid between cells. The second thing they do is they activate signaling pathways. And so one of the things that's really important in our biology is the capability of our cells, one cell to communicate with the next cell. And exosomes do seem to increase the ability of receptivity on the surface of cell site receptors. The third thing they do is they modulate immune responses. So, for autoimmunity or just, if your immune system's hyperactive, it can calm it down. If it's underperforming, it can bring it up. And the fourth thing is it promotes tissue repair. And so we've seen this in damage to knees, damage to shoulders. I've done it several times, damage to my brain. We did using the SphenoCath. I've treated it there, and then it can help support and regenerate different tissues by influencing your body's own stem cells and other tissue-specific cells. So, so exosomes, so pretty amazing molecules there.
Awesome.
I agree. Exosomes are quite amazing. We've been using them injected into the ear, into the inner ear, and we're seeing reversal in hearing loss and tinnitus. And one of the things that we've combined that with is this laser treatment called Lumamed, and we call that combination of those two together, where it's a regenerative injection into the ear, which, you know, to your point, the exosomes is part of that picture. And then we shower it with these photons from a laser, and it's really amazing. So
that's awesome.
Love it.
Very cool. Yeah, well, I'm going to introduce our guest today, and he's Dr. John Lieurance has been on our podcast a few different times over the years. We're honored to have you on. Just a little bit on Dr. John. John Lieurance, he's an author, physician, lecturer, scientific advisor for MitoZen.com.
Club. It's .club now.
Oh, .club.
Yeah.
All right.
We're now a private membership association to protect your right, your freedom of speech, and to protect your choice and how you like to take care of your health and wellness.
Well done.
Yeah.
All right. Also, educator seeking vitality, longevity, enhanced consciousness, interest in connecting what he calls the 3-leg of a stool: vitality of the body, mind, mastery, and a direct experience of God. Using science and ancient wisdom, he aims to connect those dots in his own journey to become the best version of himself in this life. Love it. Well, welcome, Dr.
Where
John
did you
Lieurance.
read that? Like that's like I'm trying to remember, like, where did that come from? But that sounds really good, doesn't it?
It sounds great. This is the bio that
who is that dude?
That's the AI assist. Yeah.
Man, I'd love to meet that dude.
Yeah.
this is the bio that your team sent me.
Yeah.
So well done.
Yeah.
That's actually just scratching the surface.
Yeah, I think there's actually 3 more paragraphs that I could go into. But I figured let's dive in.
Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Man, it's good to be with you two. You guys are such rock stars out there, such legends.
Legend. Nothing compared to you, Mr. Dr. John Lieurance, the one and only, the famous. Hey, guess what I was doing before the podcast? When you were calling, I could feel my phone vibrating. And I was doing the Zen drops and the Boca.
Nice.
So I was
nice.
I'm following. John was at the house over. I guess that was New Year's Eve, and when we skied together, we skied in the rain at Sundance. And but yeah, I love the ritual that you taught myself and my family. We've been taking it into the clinic, and people love it. So thanks for all your wisdom.
Yeah, man, we had a good time on that trip, except the skiing was like, I went skiing recently and it was epic. It was in the new Montage up in Big Sky, Montana, right? I mean, I'd highly recommend it. But when we went, it rained and the lift stopped. It must have been for 30 minutes and it just rained, right? There wasn't snow. And we both got totally wet, and we just basically tapped out after like one run. That's what happened.
That was it. Yeah, we said, no, let's call it a day. So, but it was fun. I mean, we went back home.
We made the best of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you provided us with the endonasal.
We went back to your house and had a balloon party with the family.
Yeah.
In the living room. Yeah. How are they doing since so it's this endonasal? I'm sure people are listening to this and are like, what the heck are they talking about? There's a cranial adjustment or release using endonasal balloons. And it's something that I've been doing for a long time. And I wanted to gift that to Regan and his family. And I thought that went really well. Have you felt some changes since then?
I noticed I was breathing better. It definitely opened up my sinus cavities. I need to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. One is just a teaser.
Yes.
But it opens your mind to like what's possible, because we get accustomed to this collapsed skull and we don't appreciate how much oxygen we can fully breathe in and through our nose. But then there's the whole aspect that we're not able to really feel it so much as like breathing through the nose, but it's this movement pattern of the cranium that moves cerebral spinal fluid around the brain and spinal cord, activating the pineal, making us happier and more conscious.
Yeah.
So it's really one of those treatments that I think has some really far-reaching benefits to it besides just what the physical adjustment is.
Yeah. Cade, you're gonna have to try that with it, because when Dr. John did it to us, like I could feel the tissue separating and things opening up. And I haven't been able to breathe that well in years since I could ever remember. And it's been great. So.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. Next time we'll have to get you on the table, Cade.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Well, what did you guys want to dive into? What's this show about?
So who knows? Yeah. The big thing that I want to cover today, three major topics. Well, I would like to go a little deeper into the Boca Zen, the Zen eye drops, the eye formulas, because that's been popular in our community. And then I want to just hear what the latest is in your world, because you're always innovating, doing great things. And the hearing treatment that you're doing, for those of you who know somebody who's had hearing loss, if you've got tinnitus, if you've got any issues, there's no one better than Dr. Lieurance at regenerating what's been damaged. I mean, he's working with musicians, very high profile people who are getting their hearing back in very novel ways. So that's all I've got. But if you want to chat on something else, we're always wide open. So let's start with what's been the most exciting therapy of 2023 for you?
Oh boy, there was a lot of things that I think changed in the last couple of years for sure. And particularly probably more integration of photobiomodulation. Seems like that's something that I come back to more and more, and different ways to get light exposure into the body. It's really fascinating. I mean, we even have like this, we call it a Mito wand, and it's for prostate cancer, or it could be for overall blood irradiation, or it could be used in the vagina for like chronic infections. But it's red light and blue light in like this, this kind of like probe. And you can go through the nose, you can go into the mouth, you can go into the ears. We have a home device, a part of our inner ear regenerative program, where it's like a laser that goes into the ear. So we can laser the ears, transcranial laser, just laser on the body. Yeah. I mean, it's just fascinating, because like if you start to get into lasering in the nose, you have really superficial blood vessels. And so there's not the skin that blocks the photons. So you have a more rich showering of those photons into the blood. And what that does is it reduces the stickiness of the blood. So you get better absorption. The red blood cells can change shape and get into a lot more crevices and carry more oxygen. And then it charges the blood, and all of the different white cells and stuff that's in the blood. It adds to ATP, and the body can use electrons or photons to make energy, right? So when you're throwing these photons into mitochondria and into like cells, specifically cells such like as the brain and the heart, because they're the most metabolically sensitive. And so they really require a lot of energy, and that a lot of us that have failing systems, and if you're having birthdays, you're going to start having some failing systems. So you have to do something.
Yeah.
And so things like light, I mean, obviously going out in the sun's the best thing. I mean, my favorite morning ritual is I go out. So I'm really blessed. I live on Siesta Beach, which I keep on inviting you guys to come down and do a vacation, and I'll take you through this morning ritual. But we literally live on this huge plate of crystals. Like, everybody's going to the stores and buying all these crystals and stuff. Well, we literally live on this giant plate that extends into the mantle. And it's a lot of spiritual people are like thinking this is like one of the primary vortexes on the planet, blah, blah, blah. So I can literally go on my bike and be on that beach within like 2 minutes. And I'm grounding like you've never grounded before, right? And then the sun's coming up and I'm sun gazing. And I'm doing breath work, right? And meditation, so it's like it's checking all of the boxes, right? Then I go home and jump in my cold plunge. But yeah, so I've been really, really enjoying doing that in the morning, and recently moved back to this neighborhood. I had to move off. It's interesting. I look back 10 years ago, Regan, I got really sick and I had to totally drop my whole lifestyle. I lost all my money. I lost all my real estate, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was sick for a long time. And then I've come back so strong to the point where I wound up and was able to buy this house for cash, right? And it had been under foreclosure for a long, long time, right? I mean, it was one of those things that was still there, embarrassing, and I knew I needed to clean it up. And recently, it wasn't even very long ago that I cleaned that up. I was able to renovate it and move back in there. So it's really kind of returning to that original, lifestyle that I had a long time ago. And then when I lost it was right when like the shit really hit the fan. And anybody that might be listening to this that has been in a situation that they're really sick, and you haven't been able to find any answers. Well, that's how I felt, and I wish I knew you guys back then. I wish that I knew me now back then. Like, take me in like a time machine, right? It's like, I mean, just peptides early on were something that really moved the needle for me, and I discovered them just on like, chat rooms and stuff like that, right? And I'm just like on the computer, like early internet Google days, I'm like checking out BCP 157 thymosin. I'm like ordering that shit from some weird company, injecting it. And I noticed, and I was using the growth hormone peptides maybe 15 years ago, maybe even, could be even longer. But now they're becoming more and more well-known. And I always said, this is the future of medicine. Absolutely, peptides are the future of medicine. And when I was out there hanging out with you on the slopes, as cold and wet and as pissed off as I was, I could not believe the wealth of knowledge that you were with peptides, Regan. I mean, my hat's off to you. Like the dive that you've taken into peptides and how you've brought that back into the masses with these protocols is just incredible.
And I appreciate that. Always happy to share. And I've got Misha going to be connecting with you, and then she'll go through all of our dosing strategies. So we'll get you all the nuanced little details.
Oh, thank you. Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. I have been playing around with the KVP, and I've been taking the oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart. The oral one that you shared with me, with the growth hormone for grip strength. Sarcotropin.
Yeah.
I've been fairly religiously taking that. And I found a lot of my patients, that we get it on, they come back and they say that they really like that.
Yeah. It's a popular favorite. We can barely keep it in. It just flies off the shelf. It's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, but I did the epitalon, and I'm like kind of at the point where, am I ready to dive into the LL37? Am I ready to dive into the melanotan? Because historically, those have given me a lot of side effects, right?
Yeah.
From like the mold sensitivity. But what you're saying is just push through that, right?
Well, you should with the LL37 is it's actually pretty gentle. You'll just start at a lower dose, and then
Yeah.
we'll just titrate it up. So just start at like 0.05 mLs and then work up to 1 ml and then 15 and 20. But just don't start at a big dose because LL37 is a cathelicidin, so it's going to eradicate
Runs
what's
on vitamin
serving
D,
you.
right?
Turns on vitamin D. It's regenerative by nature, so it actually turns on stem cells. It breaks up fibrotic tissues. So yes, it can absolutely help.
Wow. Okay. All right. I'm sold.
Yeah, you'll do great. Yeah, and then even as you start on the melanotan, as long as you've been doing the KPV, they work on very similar pathways. Melanotan's just a longer chain of amino acids. But
Okay.
it will work on that MSH pathway, and I think you're going to do great because you're strong. You're a lot stronger now than I've ever seen you. I mean, every time I see you, you're just healthier, stronger. You
Well,
look
I shave.
younger.
I shave. That makes me look stronger. Yeah. That's all that's changed.
That is what's different.
But it is, I know, like I'm looking at myself and like I'm like, who is that? Because I wore facial hair for so long. And when I saw you, I was just starting to grow it out. And I literally grew it out longer than yours, Cade. I mean, I was trying because Ben Greenfield calls me the Doctor Strange of biohacking, right? So I was like, well, I'm gonna go ahead and grow a long old Doctor Strange beard. And so then I grew it out and I just got tired of it. I looked older, and so I was like, I'm just going to shave it. And so it's been about a month now. Feels good. You ought to try it, you guys. I'm a trendsetter here. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't shaved my beard in 7 years. So I think I got to try that. My wife, she's always said, no, I like you in the beard. So I'm like, all right, well, whatever. She gets to look at me more than anyone else.
It's really good for your skin to shave like that skin.
Yeah, the exfoliation.
Yeah. I mean, I've noticed like how much better my skin actually looks now that I've been shaving for a couple of weeks. It's like, it really, there's something to be said.
You're looking good.
Yeah.
And the melatonin cream, the MitoSkin.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody's really interested in like having the most amazing skin, like melatonin skin cream, it does some miracles. It really does. And so I created, have you tried that? The MitoSkin?
I didn't even know you had it. This is why we have to have podcasts. So
I'm on the website now looking for it.
Kate's going to order it. Tell us about it.
Well, so there's another antioxidant called apocynin, which, by the way, I also have in a product called Breathe, which is a peptide-based nebulized formula with GHK copper peptide.
Yeah.
It's got Douglas fir extract in it, which these pinene are really good for lung health. So, but the idea with the Breathe is that it's a regenerative treatment to the lungs. And often a lot of people have fibrosis in the lungs, right? And so GHK copper peptide reverses fibrosis. So getting it directly to the lungs. It's also really good for like panic attacks and anxiety. And it works like freakishly good for that. Like you can have someone on just a straight up panic attack. And I've figured out a way to stabilize the GHK copper peptide so it survives the nebulizer, and so it works really well. But you put a couple cc's in a nebulizer, and these people are like completely calm. Wow. And so we have this 90-day protocol to regenerate the lungs, and we like to use that along with like a stem cell treatment, bone marrow or exosomes or V cells, and then we'll have people do like a few months of this Breathe with the peptide apocynin combination. But the apocynin is really not a well-known antioxidant, but when you look it up, it's like unbelievable. Like it's vanillin. It's like the essence of vanilla, but there's something. It's such a powerful antioxidant. It's even been shown to reverse rheumatoid arthritis and autoimmune diseases. And I mean, it's one of those. And as far as just for skin, it's incredible. There's another whole skincare line based just on this one antioxidant. But also taking it internally and injecting it or putting it as a nebulizer, which is what we have in Breathe. Really, really beautiful substance.
Man, we got to try. Cade is probably ordering it right now because everything you make is just amazing, and I love the creativity around it. So, how do you look at when you're going to formulate something like the Boca Zen? What's your thinking process behind the way that you stack different herbs and
Well,
peptides
it's super complicated. I mean, I've actually mapped it out, and it takes up a whole wall, really. But it all boils down to one thing. I just look for like stuff that I need in my life, you know? So
it's beautiful.
So like if I have this this need to support my gums, like we talked about Boca Zen,
Yep.
you know, a lot of people doing a lot of oil pulling, and I wanted to get away from so much aggressive care on the gums and teeth, right? So I was looking for a simpler way to take care of my mouth. And I also wanted something that really I was able to put in the throat and really maintain my immune system, you know, for the tongue and the throat and just the overall oral health. And so I was using high dose oregano at first, and I was really enjoying that because that burn was really kind of putting me in state. You know, it was uncomfortable for a minute, but afterwards I noticed I was having like this, like really aware, I felt really aware and in the moment. And it works kind of like how Zen does, you know, where that burning activates the vagus nerve. And so it puts us in this like kind of Zen state. So then I wanted to add a bunch of other things into it, like moringa, red thyme, ginger oil, clove. We put cinnamon and fennel. I mean, and it's like something about that combination is just really, really beautiful. And but it does burn, like it's spicy. You feel like you're getting slapped by your mom, and you're okay with it because you know it's with love.
Yes.
It's still never fun to get slapped by your mom, but it's for good measure. And so the Boca Zen, love your mouth. And yeah, and you put oxytocin in there too. You put oxytocin in almost everything. Is that just, you're trying to spread love?
I'm trying to that's my way of spreading love. Yeah.
I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for seeing me.
Just a light, loving being.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, this is getting really gooey. What's next on the list of things to talk about here?
So we talked about photobiomodulation, and I love the light that you gave me. That was a very kind gift. We talked about the Boca Zen, which I think is really powerful. I love the face cream because every time I see your skin's always like looks great. You're always got this nice tan. Even if you haven't been in Florida for 2 weeks and you've just been in the mountains, you just seem to maintain a nice, healthy skin. The next thing let's talk about is the eye drops that you created, because that's got the sananga, you've got the peppermint oil, the oxytocin in there.
Yeah, so it's based on well, so you had said it's sananga. So it's a herb that's been shown to kind of anecdotally improve eyesight. And you know, if you think about it, like you have sensory nerves in all around your body, right? And when you wake those sensory nerves up, it's going to light up whatever representation there is in your brain and your nervous system to that particular area, right? So it's all about fuel and activation. So if you're activating things are basically saying, yes, I want more nutrients. I want to regenerate. I want to stay, you know, the unused gate gets the rust, right? That's the Chinese proverb.
Yeah.
So when you're doing things like cold therapy or hot therapy, or you're exercising into extremes, or you're putting something that burns in your eyes or your nose or your mouth, it's basically like it's a signaling to the body to say, hey, you're alive, stay alive.
Yeah.
So there may be some of that on why there seems to be better eyesight and people seem to have improved vision. The actual burning part works a lot like what we talked about with the Boca Zen and then the Zen nasal mist is that burn activates the vagus nerve through the trigeminal nerve nucleus. And so the vagus nerve has been seen to be like the primary hub of your parasympathetic nervous system, which is so needed these days, right? We get so stressed, right? And so we need to have that counter aspect of that stress. And that's why melatonin's so important, and that deep, restful sleep. I heard you talking about sleep when I first got on, but we have to have this ability to deeply rest and regenerate just as much as we need the ability to like garner a workout or a meeting or getting things done during the day. There has to be that yin and yang. So that's why you want to take care of your vagus nerve, and that's why you might want to do some of these things that burn.
So what would you say the response is when, so we'll do retreats and I'll have everybody do the eye drops and the Boca Zen. And some people have a really extreme response to it. Other people, they handle it and they do just fine. What would you say is going on there?
Well, which one is that with the eye drops?
Either one, even the Boca Zen. Some people will cough and make it
right.
Pretty dramatic.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody's got a different level of autonomic integration. And I think when things are not poorly integrated, then it throws people off a little bit. And so that's a sensory input to the brain. And so the brain has a brake system associated with it, right? And that sometimes it's that through that autonomic nervous system. So if somebody doesn't have a really strong parasympathetic nervous system and you go and try and activate it, sometimes they get an autonomic response, which it could be nausea, they could get a headache, they could feel weak. Sometimes people might throw up or they blurry vision, all those things are possible.
Got it. Yeah. So it's and I think a lot of our clients, we have them do heart rate variability, see how their strength of their autonomic nervous system is, but that would be one of those indicators. I mean, this could almost be a testing ground with.
Yeah, I bet you the ones with the low HRV are the ones that are having more of a problem with that.
No doubt.
It's not a robustness, right? We want to have a robust health and vitality, and the autonomic nervous system is really, I think, at the core. Because if your autonomic system goes south, the physical body is going to just completely dwindle away. Because I mean, think about like digestion is like, that's all of it. So if you can't assimilate nutrients, you're certainly going to waste away pretty quickly. Just that one aspect alone, but then your heart, pumping blood to your tissues and your muscles, maintaining blood flow to your brain. This is what, I practice a lot of functional neurology. So we see a lot of complex neurological cases come in. And one of the first things that we really aim to do is stabilize their autonomics. And so oftentimes what that means for me in my practice is like this emphasis on metabolic pathways, right? So I'd get their mitochondrial back on board. A lot of times they have infection. And so we work on that a bit. We do maybe some IV ozone. We use a lot of methylene blue. We use intravenous laser with patients. We get them on this chair where it's using vibration and having them do breath work to try and resync these systems. We oxygenate their body with hyperbaric or something called cyclic variation of adaptive conditioning. It's called a CVAC. But you can't just do one thing these days. People there's a lot of headwinds to that full expression of health and vitality. So I'm sure you're seeing that in your practice too.
Oh yeah. Well, and the older we get, there's more of a headwind. So that's where you have, if you want to live with unreasonable health for a long time, you've got to do all the things, just like you're saying. It's not just the mitochondria, it's not just the gut biome, it's not just your hormones, it's not just your peptide pathways. It's all these things being integrated. And that, I think, the autonomic nervous system is at the core of that. So you've got an amazing retreat center. I can't wait to go down there and host an event with you. What's been the biggest difference having that now that you've got your new clinic and retreat center?
Well, if I could be totally honest with you, it's really more work. It's really, I'm discovering that holding events is a lot more than I really signed up for. And so we've had a couple. We had Jim Quick come into town, and Jim and I did an evening presentation that was a lot of fun. Ben Greenfield came out. He's coming out again. We're going to be doing one in either late November, early December. We call that Elements of Vitality. You and I were talking about doing something. I'm probably going to do something in the area of women's health and fitness with Mindy Peltz and some other people out here. We're going to try to get some big stars. We're talking to some famous people to come and speak as well. And then Rainforest Summit, the 2nd of June. I've got this admiral. Regan, I know we both have like these patients, right? That like we've been able to help, and it's like, it's so rewarding to see them. But this particular guy is really, really very rewarding because he was an admiral in the Coast Guard, and he was Homeland Security advisor twice under Trump and George Bush. And so this guy's like royalty. He had his own office in the West Wing, right? And so then he found me right about a year before he retired. And so now he's retired, but like we became really close friends while he was still in service. I went down to Key West and we went boating together. We've become really good friends. But I found mold, and he had chronic Epstein-Barr virus, and he had Lyme disease. I mean, he had all these problems, and he was overweight, and his C-reactive protein was through the roof, right? So somebody's really bad when it gets to that point. And he'd been to all the doctors, through the Navy and the military, and everybody really was poo-pooing him and just telling him it's normal. And so then he found me, and I worked with him closely, and it's been transformational. And so he's going to come June 2nd, and he's going to present basically his journey, right? So it's going to be myself and a couple other people that are going to speak. We might be able to get you in there too if the dates work. I'd love to have you. But we're going to be speaking, and then he's going to come in at the end of the day and basically sum it all up as a patient, and like how I stepped up to the and I did the red light, and I did this, and I did the fasting, and then I read this book, and this is what I found. And he presents so beautifully. So I think anybody that comes there, it could be a real transformation for them to have that experience, especially the way that his name's Doug Fears, Admiral Doug Fears, the way he presents. So that's Rainforest Summit.
Wow. And that's open. So, our audience could have a chance of attending that event.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And we're going to be streaming it as well.
Beautiful. So we'll get the details and put it in the show notes for everybody who is listening. You won't want to miss it. That sounds phenomenal. Well, especially when you've got somebody there who gives you a real compelling reason why you need to start taking your health a little more seriously, like an admiral. You can't help but take those dudes seriously.
Yeah, I mean he's leadership. Like he should go to like Harvard or MIT and teach like a class on leadership. I mean, this is the type of I think he could become president of the United States. Like really, wow. I saw that in a deep meditation, and I was telling my friend the next day about that vision, and he called me on the other line like a synchronicity. But he said he's been told that he'd make a good run for it, but he said it's just too messed up, he feels like he would just be gridlock, and because he's seen it. It's a mess there,
Yeah.
the pharmaceutical companies, the food industry,
Yep. Energy. Yeah. The
the
whole
energy,
thing.
the military industrial complex. The money is so enormous. It's like, I don't know. It's going to take a revolution.
Yeah. 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 I think it's pretty interesting. And Robert Kennedy running. That's fascinating. I'm glad he's in the race to create some sanity.
He did some sort of live event recently, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. It was a packed house.
Did you watch it?
I don't get too much into politics. I read occasionally about it.
Yeah.
And I was just reading about him this morning. I said, oh, this is really good because he's actually the most conservative Democrat that's ran in decades.
Yeah. Last time I was in town, I had New Year's Eve with his sister, Rory Kennedy.
Oh,
And
cool.
I don't think she likes me very much. I'll put it out there. But, I was there. I had my Zen and my Boca Zen and this, and she's just too conservative. She asked me my opinion on the vaccine, and I didn't realize that Bobby and her were opposed. In fact, the whole Kennedy
totally
thing,
opposed. Yeah.
and when I engaged her, she had no idea about, she's throwing stuff out there. There's no interest at all for facts. She's talking about how kids should get vaccinated so they don't bring it back to their parents or the older people. But it doesn't help the transmission. They told us from the beginning, hey, this does nothing for transmission. And then people, somehow they weren't following that narrative. As soon I heard that in the very beginning, I'm like, this doesn't make sense, right? So if it doesn't change transmission, you can vaccinate kids to the cows come home. They're still going to catch it. They're just not going to get, it's too technical for most people to understand that, apparently.
Right.
Everybody just doesn't really slow down enough to just take that fact in. And I think we wouldn't have had so many people running to get vaccinated.
Yeah, anyway, no, I agree.
So she didn't like the comment. It got weird, and somebody had to interrupt, stop talking, you guys. There was almost like they were breaking us apart or something like that.
John's starting a fist fight.
Come on.
But no,
John's like, do you not know? Did you listen to what the FDA said?
I feel sorry for Bobby, because he's got a family that if they're anything like Rory, just completely closed off, brainwashed. It's just sad, and but Jeff is friends with Rory, right? Kind of. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
And I told this story to Jeff, and Jeff was extremely political. He didn't say anything. Jeff wants to say something.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But Jeff Hayes, for those that are listening to this, did Vaccines Revealed, right? He's a strong proponent to, freedom of choice. And
yes, and we got The Truth About Medicine. That's going to be launching soon. I spoke to him yesterday. So
I like that. So we have a name now.
Yep, it's The Truth About Medicine. So everybody who hears this, you're getting a little glimpse into some really exciting documentary that will come out. I think end of the year maybe. But yeah, he's excited. So that's going to be rolling. So John, just as we finish up, if you looked at the biggest things that people benefit from with the ear treatment, that's where I think you have so many different levels of genius, but for you to be able to restore hearing in people, and for you to be able to fine tune it for the artists and musicians that you're working with, can you talk about what that looks like and who it is you help with hearing and tinnitus?
Well, yeah, I worked with a musician. His name's Doyle Bramhall. He was raised by Stevie Ray Vaughan, and he tours with Eric Clapton right now and is considered, one of the greatest guitar players. But he became a friend, and when we started doing this procedure, he was very interested, and his results were really fascinating. I mean, we got like 10 to 15 decibels of hearing improvement with him, and he did a little video about his experience that's on our website. If you go to advancedrejuvenation.us, and then the treatment's called Sunave, and so it breaks the idea of what's possible. In medicine, they don't think hearing can be repaired. I was just reading something this morning. This Asian scientist injected what they call a cocktail of drugs into the ears of rats, and that it triggered their hair cells to grow back. And to me, it's not a surprise, because birds' hair cells grow back. So there are other mammals that have the capacity. So it's just a matter of turning on those gene pathways. We use some peptides in our cocktail when we inject the ears, and we use something called very small embryonic-like stem cells, or V cells.
Yeah.
And that combination, because with the V cells, we can direct them to go to certain parts of the brain. So we can not only go to the ear, but we can go to the different parts of the brain that represent hearing and perception of tinnitus, right? So sometimes it becomes central. The hearing, that whole trackway, to support that whole trackway, kind of goes into the brainstem. we can use a device in right angles, and where that intersects in the body, it's homed in. It triggers this kind of beacon for the stem cells, for the V cells.
Man, and for you to improve people's hearing like that is phenomenal. And what do you see it in the future? I mean, I know you're always innovating. Have you changed your protocol much, or do you feel like you've got you're there?
Well, right now I feel like I'm there. Ask me in 6 months, there'll probably be some changes and some upgrades, but we started out with injecting bone marrow. That was the first, because we flew Dr. Shim out from Korea, and I didn't want to be the first to inject stem cells into the ears. I'd been wanting to do this for a long time, because we'd been involved in doing this laser therapy for the inner ear for 10 years. And so I'm like, and we were already doing, like with your clinic, we're doing some stem cell stuff. And so I've been wanting to add it on. And then finally I see this doctor in Korea. So I flew him out, and he trained us. And so the way he trained us with bone marrow, and it would be, if somebody had 2 ears, which, they're getting both ears done, you got to aspirate their bone marrow twice, because you can't use any anticoagulant. And I didn't really find the results to be like as good as I was hoping. So I started to tweak that a little bit. And so I started to look at exosomes, and I started to look at V cells, and then I started to work with peptides, and I started mixing all that together. And then that's where I started to hit a really sweet spot. And there's been some cases that have been just outright profound, like from profound hearing to almost not needing hearing aids.
Wow. So people are going from barely audible to they can hear just fine.
Yeah, there's been some really, and with the tinnitus seems to be improving. And there's a lot that goes to hearing and the inner ear. So a lot of the work that you guys are doing there at your clinic is also really important. And we find that working with patients' mitochondria is extremely beneficial while we're going through these different processes. So doing things like peptides and balancing your hormones and detoxifying and doing different types of therapies, taking methylene blue. We didn't really get around to that yet. Have you been using that one?
Yes, I need to order more. I love the methylene blue. And I just like the way that it makes the toilet look when you urinate. It's all blue.
Oh yeah. Did you ever make blue snow?
Yeah, I should
Oh, that would have been great.
offer that to Cade as snow.
Well, I was when I was in town. In fact, when I was at Jeff Hayes's house, right? I walked out and I'm like, darn, I forgot to use the bathroom. And I just didn't want to go back in there and interrupt them, And I did. I was like, and I'm like, wow, he's gonna know exactly who did that. Just like right by his car.
That is
I took a
great.
picture of it too, and I was gonna send it to him. I could say, hey, did you see this? Just want to let you know I'm marking my toy or something like that.
Yeah.
But so methylene blue is this really amazing substance you can take orally, and then you pee blue for a while, and it's one of the best mitochondrial boosts I've ever discovered. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, and it feels great. Like energy from methylene blue is just clean. And especially if you get out in the sun with it, it almost, to me, it feels like it gets activated. If I'm indoors all day and I take methylene blue, I don't notice the benefits nearly as much as when I'm outside.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And the mood, do you notice that the mood improves nicely?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. They've done large clinical trials on methylene blue for depression. And they started out with a dose of, I think, 80 something milligrams. Then they went to 150. Then they went to 350, and then they went to 500 a day. Okay. And what they said is at 500, it seemed to plateau off, but the more they gave, the better the results were with depression.
Wow, interesting.
So basically, I think everybody's like super afraid to use more than just a really light dose of methylene blue. There's just been some stuff that's got out there that makes it sound really dangerous, right? And a lot of it, I think, revolves around that whole thing with SSRIs, right? And that was based on thymectomies, where they were surgically removing thymus glands, and they were IVing like a couple thousand milligrams of methylene blue. And the people that were on SSRIs, they died. They had serotonin storm. So after that happened, they just came out and put a warning on SSRIs and methylene blue, and they just like a blanket statement, and it got everybody afraid. And then afterwards, Mayo Clinic retracted that warning and said, no, only if you get this thymectomy, this one surgery, and you can't get the methylene blue if you're on SSRIs. Otherwise, there's no problem. But the FDA didn't take that warning down, right? Which they probably don't do that with a lot of things that are out of patent, because there's nobody there to be bugging them. Hey, let's get this,
Right.
warning off, right? It's just kind of, but we've worked with people, everything from microdosing, to doing trip doses of psychedelics that have SSRI impacts, to people that are on SSRIs, and on top of that, it's the opinion of Francisco Gonzalez Lima, who's one of the leading researchers on methylene blue, that that warning it should be taken out by the FDA, right? So it's likely that there are so many people suffering from depression, and their psychologist is afraid of using methylene blue, even though there's this great research, and they just don't know. It's just this blanket thing, and they're not digging that step deeper to be able to understand it more. But otherwise, I think methylene blue would be the answer for depression versus all these drugs.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, especially if you're working on all the other systems in the body. And so methylene blue, Cade, that's the other thing we need to get into the clinic, is the methylene blue, because John makes some amazing methylene blue. So this has been exciting and a really fun conversation. we just need to have John on like every week, and then we can just keep rapping. But but John, I really, Dr. Lieurance, I appreciate you being on this. Thanks for all your innovation, your friendship, just all the creativity that you put into medicine. But you're an artist, but you're a deep scientist as well. And so I think you're at that level of mastery that very few people will ever attain. And so, and I'm a benefactor of that. We're all benefactors of it. So thank you very much.
Well, I honestly feel the same way about you, Regan. I mean, you're at just such a level of confidence and precision with your school of medicine in your own right. So thank you for that beautiful compliment, though.
My pleasure.
Awesome.
All right, Cade, send us home.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Dr. John, for joining us today, everybody. So, Dr. John, or Dr. Lieurance, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram at Dr. John Lieurance at Instagram, and then also drjohnlieurance.com. And then there's what we're talking about with MitoZen. You know, a lot of the products that you could previously order at MitoZen.com are not available through that site anymore. So it's a members only type of site. So it's $10 lifetime membership, super easy. And then advancedrejuvenation.us is our clinic site. But thanks for having me on, guys. It's been so much fun. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. We'll see everybody next week. See everybody.
Bye-bye.